They thought she was just a janitor, until she took down the whole company. The vacuum's hum was the only sound in the 37th floor executive lounge, until the moment it cut out and her voice took over. No, that's incorrect. Your margin projection fails to account for currency fluctuations in the Eurozone. Lina Davis, mop in one hand, headset still nestled in her ear, shifted effortlessly to French. ETN plus, la stratégie tarifaire que vous proposes n'est pas face à la concurrence locale. Il faut penser globalement. She paused, listening, then switched to rapid-fire German, her tone measured, firm, analytical. The conversation wasn't casual. It was high-stakes, urgent, and brimming with numbers and implications most boardrooms would sweat over. What she didn't know, what couldn't have known, was that behind the frosted glass of the adjoining conference room, the CEO of Orbital Dynamics, Gregory Sterling, had walked in early for his 9 a.m. with investors. And he'd stopped in his tracks. The voice wasn't just articulate. It was commanding. He leaned closer to the glass, frowning, confused. The cleaning staff wasn't supposed to be on this floor now. Who the hell was she talking to like that? Through the glass, he saw her. Small frame, faded blue uniform, sleeves rolled up, mop angled casually against the marble wall. Lina Davis. He remembered her vaguely, quiet, always humming, always polite. From the Bronx, someone had said, hired through a third-party vendor. No degree, no HR file in the main system. And yet here she was, breaking down macroeconomic forecasts in 4 languages like a senior analyst at the IMF. He stepped into the lounge. She froze, caught mid-sentence. Her headset slipped off her ear. For a second, neither spoke. Then he said, slowly, "Who exactly are you?" Lina blinked, the accent in his voice betraying a lifetime of private schools and Davos panels. "My name's Lina," she said calmly. "I clean the executive floors." And that call was a side project. Gregory's eyes narrowed. What kind of side project involves correcting market strategy in German? She took a breath. The kind that matters to someone who's tired of being invisible. A strange silence stretched between them. Then, without a word, Gregory reached into his jacket, pulled out a card, and handed it to her. "My office. 10 minutes. Bring that same energy." And just like that, the clock on the wall ticked toward the moment everything would change. For Lina, for the company, and for the people who'd long been silenced in its halls. The executive assistant outside Gregory Sterling's office gave Lina a once-over as she stepped off the private elevator. Her eyes swept over the janitor uniform, the worn sneakers, the earbuds tucked into her pocket. She blinked twice, confused, but too well-trained to ask. "He's expecting you," the assistant said hesitantly, buzzed the door, and stood aside. The office of Orbital Dynamics CEO was a cold glass fortress, steel lines, leather-bound chairs, and a window view that looked out over Manhattan like the city belonged to him. Gregory didn't stand when Lina walked in. He gestured to a chair. "Sit." She didn't. "I'm not sure this is going to be a long meeting," she said. His lip twitched. "We'll see." He picked up a remote and played back the audio recording from the lounge, the part where she corrected the team's projections, seamlessly transitioning between English, French, German, and Mandarin. Lina winced slightly at the sound of her own voice echoing through the space. He paused the audio. "Explain." She crossed her arms. "What do you want explained? That I speak 4 languages? That I know the company's Q3 strategy is flawed?" "You were eavesdropping," he said. "I was cleaning," she snapped. "Your call was on speaker. You people act like the help is invisible." He flinched, but only barely. "You weren't always a janitor." "No." Her tone softened slightly. "I have a master's in international finance. I spent 5 years working for a venture firm in Dakar. My visa expired during a contract renewal. Long story short, paperwork got tangled, and I fell off the grid. Couldn't afford to fight it in court. Got deported. Came back through family channels 2 years later, but no one wanted to hire a former deportee. So I mopped floors." Gregory leaned back slowly. His mind was whirring, faster than even he could control. "Why keep listening to our calls?" "I wasn't listening. I was surviving. Every day I watched grown men gamble this company's future with blind spots and groupthink. I took notes for me. For sanity. She hesitated. And because I hoped someone would notice. Just once. He said nothing for a long moment. Then, come with me. Without waiting for a response, Gregory stood, strode across the room, and opened a hidden panel in the wall. Behind it, an elevator. One Lina had never seen. He pressed his thumb to a scanner. The doors slid open. You want to stop being invisible? He asked. Then let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. And as the doors slid shut behind them, Lina felt something shift, not just in the air, but in her chest. This wasn't a promotion. It was a reckoning. The elevator didn't go up. It went down, past the labeled floors, past sub-basement security, past even the biometric restricted archive levels. Lina glanced at Gregory. He said nothing, but his jaw was tight. When the elevator finally stopped, the doors opened into a concrete hallway. No windows. Just motion-activated lights flickering on one by one as they stepped out. The air smelled of ozone and secrets. What is this place? Lina asked, voice low. The brainstem, he said. Where we keep what can't be shown to investors or shareholders. Tech and development. Data we shouldn't have. And sometimes, people who know too much. That last part made her stop. He looked back, unreadable. You're not a prisoner. But I need you to see what you're walking into. They passed a series of reinforced doors, each marked with strings of code, acronyms Lina didn't recognize, and others she did. Terrifying ones. ICVX. Tetherwave. Black Echo. Finally, he led her into a long room filled with screens. Real-time feeds from global divisions. Data matrices streaming down walls. One screen showed language processing models. Another showed a map of Africa, its resources tagged and tracked. She stepped closer. This is predictive? Gregory nodded. We model market instability, social resistance, and, when it suits us, manipulate both. You were right in that conference call. Our Q3 projections failed to account for backlash in the CFA franc zone. You corrected it in real time, without the algorithm. Lina's heart pounded. You're using this to steer entire economies. He didn't deny it. Instead, he turned to her. This is why I brought you here. Because I need someone who sees what we don't. Someone who doesn't think like the rest of us. She narrowed her eyes. You want to use me. I want to hire you, he said. As a ghost strategist. Off the record. You'll brief me directly. No one else knows. You'll have access to everything, but no title. No glory. Lina looked around. Why me? He paused. Because the people who look like you, and who live like you, aren't supposed to end up in this room. And when they do, it disrupts everything. A warning siren chirped softly from the wall. Gregory turned. A red dot blinked on a screen labeled Mali Logistics, Asset Breach. He swore under his breath and started typing. Lina stepped closer, reading the screen, and froze. Her cousin's name appeared in the log. Gregory noticed her expression. You know someone in the region? My family lives there. He hesitated. Then you might want to sit down. Things are about to get complicated. Lina didn't sit. Her legs locked as her cousin's name, Isitoin Diallo, flashed in the breach report, flagged as a regional contractor anomaly. What is this? She demanded, voice trembling. Gregory's hands froze on the keyboard. She's listed as a temporary logistics interpreter on a fuel route in Gao. That's not possible. She's a teacher. She works with kids. She doesn't even drive. Gregory leaned in, eyes narrowing. Then someone is using her credentials. He clicked deeper. The screen filled with heat maps, satellite views, and dossiers. One file stood out. Operation Black Sands. Extra-state resource flow mapping, Sahel zone. Lina scanned the page and felt her stomach drop. This isn't logistics. This is smuggling, she whispered. You're using contractors to move weapons and cash under the guise of tech hardware shipments. Gregory didn't flinch. We contract third parties to protect supply chains. What they do sometimes strays. Lina turned to him, eyes blazing. You're laundering shadow operations through community workers and blaming them when it unravels. He held her gaze. That's why I need you. You see through the lie before it hits the news. Before the blood dries. But my family. You think this company picks people randomly? He interrupted. We mine networks. Friendships. Languages. You're a vector, Lina. The reason we even had access in the first place. Her heart raced. So you knew about me? About her? We didn't know you were you, he admitted. Until that call. Silence stretched, heavy and sharp. Finally, Lina walked to the console. With trembling fingers, she began pulling data, cross-referencing call logs, contract signatures, flight manifests. The more she looked, the worse it got. These weren't accidents. They were patterns. Get her out, Lina said. Now, pull her name from the system. Gregory hesitated. That would expose the operation. She turned slowly. I don't care. Another long pause. Then Gregory picked up a secure line. Pull the Diallo alias. Immediately. Code black override. Lina sagged into the chair as the command went through. Thank you, she murmured. But she knew something had changed. She wasn't a ghost anymore. She was a threat. And someone, somewhere, was going to want her silenced. The elevator ride back up was silent. Gregory didn't speak. Lina didn't trust herself to. The clean scent of steel and ozone clung to her uniform, mixing with something colder, fear. When they stepped out onto the 38th floor, the air felt different. Still. Too still. The receptionist wasn't at her desk. The security guard usually stationed by the elevators was gone. Gregory paused. Something's off, he muttered. Lina's instincts had sharpened since Dakar. The silence wasn't just eerie, it was strategic, measured, as if someone had pressed pause on the building. They turned the corner and saw the open door. His office, wide open, a laptop still glowing on the desk, papers scattered, but someone had been here. A faint beeping noise came from behind the desk. Lina rushed forward, ducking low. Stop, Gregory hissed, but she was already moving, past the desk, to the source of the noise. A black box. Small. Blinking red. Not a bomb. A listening device. Oh God, she whispered. They're not watching you, Gregory. They're watching me. He knelt beside her, staring at the device. That's proprietary military grade. Nothing this company uses, at least not legally. Lina stood. You said this place tracks movements, right? Who accessed this floor in the last hour? Gregory sprinted to his laptop, began typing. Lina scanned the room. Every hallway now felt like a sniper's corridor. Got it, he said. One unregistered ID badge entered via service elevator 12 minutes ago. No exit scan. Then they're still here. Before he could respond, a faint clang echoed above them from the air vents. They looked up in unison. Then the lights cut out. Pitch black. Silence. Then crack. A loud pop as the emergency generator kicked in. But it was too late. Someone had breached the core levels. And if Lina was right, they weren't just there to plant bugs. They were there to erase her. Lina dropped to the floor first, pressing her body against the cold marble, her instincts from fieldwork years ago screaming at her louder than the alarms that never sounded. Gregory crouched beside her, pale and breathing hard. If they're here for you, they'll go through you first, she muttered. You're the only thing between me and anonymity. A noise, sharp, metallic, clattered from the hallway. Gregory lunged for a hidden panel in the wall near the bookshelf. A small drawer slid open, revealing a compact sidearm and 2 burner phones. He tossed one to her. Encrypted line. Call no one unless I say. You still know French? She arched an eyebrow. Do you still believe I'm just a janitor? He almost smiled. Point taken. Another clang from the hallway. Then silence. Too much silence. Lina whispered. Do you have facial ID logs from the unregistered badge? Gregory tapped into the control terminal built into the desk. A grainy still image popped up, someone in a full-body coverall, face blurred by interference. Deliberate masking, Gregory said grimly. Whoever this is knew how to scrub cameras in real time. Suddenly, the internal comms system buzzed to life. Mr. Sterling, a voice crackled. A man's voice. Smooth. Unhurried. Not asking. Announcing. We have your ghost. Lina's blood turned to ice. Step out unarmed, or we release the files. Gregory stiffened. What files? You think your janitor was just observing? She was archiving. We have voice-to-text recordings from the last 12 months. Half your board doesn't know they're implicated in violations from here to Lagos. Lina stared at him, panicked. I never shared. I know, he said quietly. They're bluffing. Are they? Gregory looked toward the ceiling vent. We have 5 minutes. Maybe less. Lina moved toward the far end of the room and pulled a chair beneath the vent shaft. Boost me. He hesitated. You want to climb toward the intruder? No, she said calmly. I want to flank them. She pulled open the grate and slid inside, her body weaving through tight metal tunnels like she'd done it 100 times before. Gregory whispered up at her. How do you know how to do this? Her voice echoed faintly back. You think deportees survive without learning to disappear? And then she was gone, crawling through the dark, heading straight toward the one thing she feared more than exposure. The proof that her story, her past, her family, had already been weaponized. Lina moved through the vents with the precision of someone who'd once crossed a border hidden in the undercarriage of a bus. Every creak of metal echoed like a gunshot in her ears. She could feel the airflow shifting. Someone else was moving nearby. She paused at a junction. Below her, the analytics operations hub. It was empty, except for one man. Tall, all black clothing, gloves. He crouched beside a server rack, typing furiously into a terminal spliced with a portable drive. Lines of code spilled across the screen, decryption tools working faster than anything she'd seen in the field. Then she saw it. File tree, Diallo Active Finance. He was inside her folder. And worse, he was copying it. Lina gritted her teeth and reached into her pocket. Gregory's burner phone buzzed softly in her palm. One message. 2 minutes until full data extraction. What's the play? She typed back quickly. Cut power. Now. A beat later, the room below plunged into darkness. The man cursed in French, fast, fluent, but local dialect. Malian. That hit Lina harder than she expected. He wasn't some foreign mercenary. He was from her side of the world. Which meant whoever was running this op wasn't just afraid of her. They knew her community could destroy them if they ever found out the truth. A sharp click echoed as the man drew a weapon. Compact, silenced, professional. He was trained, but distracted. Lina dropped from the vent. She landed hard on her shoulder, rolled, grabbed a metal server rod from the rack beside her, and swung. The rod connected with the man's arm, the gun flying across the room. He stumbled back, but he wasn't stunned. He lunged. They crashed into the servers. Sparks flew. A glass panel shattered. Lina fought like she was scrubbing floors for her mother's life. Dirty, ungraceful, and furious. But the man was stronger. He slammed her into a console, hand closing around her throat. Then crack. Gregory, standing behind him with a stun baton, chest heaving. The man slumped. Lina gasped, hands on her knees. Gregory dropped the baton. Didn't think I'd let you take all the glory. She coughed. I was buying time. He helped her up. What did he get? She checked the drive still jammed into the terminal. Almost everything, she said grimly, including the blackmail logs I didn't know existed. Gregory paled. Then this wasn't about silencing you. Lina looked down at the man they'd just knocked out. It was about framing me. And somewhere in the building, someone still had access to the master keys. Because this attack, it was just the opening move. Security swarmed the analytics hub within minutes. Gregory flashed his credentials. Lina stayed silent, eyes scanning the uniforms, faces, hands, looking for any twitch, any glance that lasted too long. Trust had just become a luxury neither of them could afford. The unconscious man was gone by the time backup arrived. Vanished. No trace. Just the shattered console, the blood on the floor, and a half-decrypted drive that now pulsed with encrypted fire. Lina clutched the device. We need to isolate this. Air-gapped room. No network. Gregory nodded, already speaking into his comms. Level 5 quarantine. Seal it off. But Lina noticed something he didn't. A junior tech near the door, headset on, watching too closely, pretending to adjust a tablet, but his fingers never moved. She stepped toward him. Hey, you, what's your name? The young man startled. Jason. She nodded slowly. Your accent. Where are you from? He blinked. Trenton. Lina stepped closer, switched to French. Tu viens d'où exactement? C'est pas un accent de New Jersey, CA. He hesitated, then made a fatal mistake. He answered, De Marseille. Enfin, J. Dyer. Her hand shot out, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The tablet clattered to the ground. From inside his jacket, a slim card reader tumbled free. Gregory moved instantly. Security. Search him now. Jason struggled. You don't understand. This isn't what it looks like. But Lina had already pulled up his badge ID on the company's terminal. It didn't exist. She stared into his eyes. You weren't here to copy data, were you? Jason went still. You were here to plant it. Gregory's voice dropped. What kind of data? Lina's mouth was dry. The kind that makes me look like a foreign asset. Like I've been leaking data to Sahel rebel groups. To China. Maybe even laundering money through my cousin's nonprofit. Gregory paled. My God. They're building a case to ruin you. No, she said softly. To discredit me. So when I expose the company's secrets, no one believes a word. Jason didn't deny it. Security dragged him out of the room. Gregory whispered, We've been compromised at every level. Lina looked him in the eye. And if we don't move now, I'll go down for crimes you don't even know your company committed. The lights overhead flickered, and for the first time, Lina saw what real power looked like. Not the kind in suits. The kind that could erase a person with a single keystroke. And now, they were coming for hers. They sealed the drive in an RF blocking case and took it to a server room Gregory called the freezer, a sub-level chamber that didn't exist on any floor plan, designed to operate off-grid for espionage containment. Lina stood beside Gregory as he secured the room with a biometric triple lock. But she didn't feel safer. She felt like a bird in a cage someone else had designed. You realize, she said, the fact this room even exists means you've been preparing for war for a long time. Gregory didn't deny it. Every company at this level has. We just don't all admit it. She studied his face. There's something you're not telling me. He hesitated, then pulled a folder from a wall safe. Old school. Paper. 2 years ago, he said, one of our directors greenlit a shadow project, Omega Reticle. It used data like yours. Community networks. Language fluency. Surveillance of soft assets. Mostly black and brown contractors in unstable regions. Lina's stomach turned, and Gregory slid the file toward her. Inside, photos. Names. Entire family trees traced out like military intel. One picture made her knees go weak. Her brother, Khalil. Why is he in this? She whispered. Gregory's voice was hoarse. Because they flagged you years ago. But someone buried the report. You were listed as a latent risk, not a threat. Until yesterday. Lina stepped back, her breath catching. You knew? I suspected. Not like this. She turned away, rage and nausea clawing up her throat. This company has been watching me longer than I've worked here. Yes. And you let them. He didn't argue. Gregory swore, slammed the freezer shut, and followed her to the elevator. As they ascended, Lina's hand tightened into a fist. They don't want to just discredit me, she said. They want to erase me entirely. Like I was never here. Gregory met her eyes. Then we make them remember. The elevator doors opened, and they ran into smoke. Floor 14 was burning, and someone had already pulled the plug. The smoke clawed at Lina's throat before she could shout. Red haze poured from the broken ceiling vents like fog bleeding out of a wound. Sprinklers dripped, but didn't spray. Someone had killed the suppression system. This wasn't fire meant to destroy a floor. This was fire meant to destroy evidence. Gregory yanked his jacket over his mouth. We need oxygen masks. There's a kit in the comms closet. No time, Lina coughed. Archives are through the east corridor, past legal. The lights flickered as they moved through the smoke-drenched hallway. Alarms stayed silent. No sirens. No security. This wasn't a drill. It was a professional erasure. Lina reached the archives door. Scorched. Unlocked. Inside, chaos. Cabinets pulled open. Files strewn. Half-burned folders still curled on the floor like dying leaves. Then, footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Someone was still in there. Gregory raised the stun baton. But Lina didn't wait. She darted in, past rows of file cabinets, past melting plastic bins, and saw the figure crouched by a metal drawer labeled Personnel, external subcontractors. The woman turned. Not a stranger. It was Renata Huerta, head of risk management, one of the highest-ranking executives in the company. Her eyes met Lina's and narrowed. You shouldn't be here. Lina's heart pounded. Neither should you. Renata stood slowly, folder in one hand, hard drive in the other. I'm just cleaning up loose ends. Gregory entered, eyes wide. Renata, what the hell are you doing? Exactly what you refused to do, Gregory. Her voice was cold steel. We built this empire on asymmetrical advantage. You knew what we sacrificed to get here. You're burning people, Lina said. Erasing them. No. Renata shook her head. I'm protecting them from themselves. She turned to Gregory. You think we didn't know she was listening? That she wouldn't eventually see what we are? Of course she would. That's why we kept her close. Watched her learn. Watched her translate. We didn't plan to stop her. We planned to use her. Lina stared at the hard drive. My family is on that drive. Renata didn't flinch. So is mine. She walked toward the exit. Gregory stepped in her path. Renata paused. Move, she said. He didn't. Lina stepped forward. You once told me, she said quietly, that I disrupt everything. Renata tilted her head. You do. Lina nodded. Then punched her. The folder dropped. The hard drive skittered across the floor. Renata reeled, stunned, but not unconscious. Gregory dove, grabbing the drive. Go, Lina yelled. Together, they sprinted out into the smoke, coughing, stumbling. Sprinklers finally hissed to life above them. And behind them, Renata didn't follow. Because this wasn't over. This was war. They reached the 39th floor, Orbital Dynamics' private cybersecurity operations center, just as the drive began to overheat in Gregory's hands. It's encrypted 6 layers deep, he gasped, slamming it into a terminal. If we lose power again, we lose everything. Lina hovered behind him, soaked from the sprinklers, still catching her breath. Her uniform clung to her like armor. Burned papers, old blood, and betrayal were still etched in the lines of her face. The terminal's interface flickered. Decryption initiated. Folders began appearing one by one. Operation Black Sands. Omega Reticle. Surveillance. Community nodes. Domestic manipulation protocols. And then, Davis_Lina_active track. She froze. Gregory opened the file. Inside, timestamped logs going back 7 years. Audio clips. Facial recognition from her first janitorial badge photo. Phone taps. Even journal entries. Hers, extracted from an old cloud backup she'd long thought deleted. Lina stared in horror. They've had my life on replay. Gregory's face went pale. They predicted your influence before you ever stepped foot in this building. You weren't just being watched. You were groomed. Suddenly, an alert popped up on the screen. System lockdown, executed by admin ID, R. Huerta. Gregory swore. Renata's in the mainframe. She's wiping it all. But before he could block the command, another window appeared. A video feed. Renata, sitting in her office. Calm. Composed. A glass of wine in hand. Her voice crackled through the speaker. You're persistent. I'll give you that. Lina stepped forward. You framed me. Threatened my family. You used people like me because you thought no one would notice. I didn't think no one would notice, Renata replied. I counted on everyone noticing, after I made sure they no longer cared. Gregory cut in. We're taking this public. The entire company. The data's already backed up to a private line. Renata smiled faintly. You really think the board will survive this? You think they'll let the public see who really owns their banks, their politicians, their wars? Lina leaned into the mic, then burn it all. Renata paused. I'll be seeing you again, Lina. The feed went black. But it didn't matter. Gregory turned to her. We've got enough. It's going to break headlines. But you won't be safe. Lina stared at the files still decrypting. Her life, her family, the lies. I was never safe, she whispered. And now, neither were they. 3 days later, the world changed. Every major outlet, from the Wall Street Journal to underground podcasts, was running with the same headline. Whistleblower Janitor exposes billion-dollar surveillance network. Lina didn't watch the coverage. She didn't need to. She felt it in the air. Protests bloomed outside Orbital Dynamics offices from London to Lagos. Senate committees demanded testimonies. Investigators raided the company's dark floors, pulling cables from still-warm servers. Gregory Sterling resigned, not with a press release, but with a statement delivered directly to Lina in front of a wall of cameras. "I stepped aside," he said, "because the person best equipped to lead this company forward was always right beneath our feet." He turned to her. Lina Davis saw the truth, and now the world does too. It echoed around the globe. Some celebrated. Some screamed. Shareholders sued. The board scrambled. But the one thing no one saw coming? Lina didn't take the CEO's seat. She took the floor beneath it. She built an internal oversight division from scratch, run by immigrants, former whistleblowers, and people who'd lived systems from inside out. People who didn't look like the people in charge until now. She called it Echo Office. Its mission: to catch injustice before it's convenient to pretend it doesn't exist. 6 months later, the executive floor had new plaques, new eyes watching. And on one quiet Monday morning, a young intern stepped off the elevator, holding coffee, wide-eyed and nervous. He glanced around, spotted a woman in a simple blouse and sneakers reviewing documents in the hall. "Excuse me," he said. "Do you know where I can find Miss Davis?" She looked up, smiled gently. "I'm Miss Davis." The intern blinked. "Oh, I thought. Sorry, I just assumed." She nodded. That's how it always starts. And then she opened the door to a future no longer afraid to be seen. Thank you for watching. Subscribe me and hit the notification bell to not miss new stories. Bye.